People in the valley used to laugh at him, not because he was cruel, not because he was strange, but because to them he looked useless. While others rushed through life like they were being chased, he moved slowly. While others argued, he listened. While others fought the world, he seemed to let the world pass through him. His name was Shen, and the villagers called him the man who did nothing.
Mist still clung to the market street when Wei found Han, not at the river, in front of the noodle stall. Han's banner hung straight. His pot was hot. His face was not. Across the lane a new stall had opened. Fresh paint, fresh arrogance. A board hung from a rope. Noodles, cheaper than anyone. Men stood there smiling as they paid, not because they loved the noodles, because they loved the feeling of winning a deal. Han watched them like a man watching thieves walk out his own door. Wei stepped beside him. Han didn't greet him. He said, "He's cutting me." Wei looked at the board. "How much?" Wei asked. Han's jaw tightened. "I sell a bowl for 10 copper. He sells for 8. Wei swallowed. "And your cost?" Han's eyes flickered. 7. Wei did the math in his head and felt his stomach drop. "If you match him," Wei said, "you earn 1. Han's face hardened. 1 is still better than nothing. Wei hesitated. "And if he drops again?" Han answered too fast. "Then I drop again." Wei stared. Han's voice rose like he could scare the numbers into obedience. "He can't keep bleeding forever. I will endure. His stall will die. Then I raise my price again." The pot lid rattled behind them. A small puff of steam escaped like a quiet sigh. Then a voice came from the side, not loud, not interested in the argument. "Your noodles smell good." Han turned. Shen stood there with hands inside his sleeves. His robe was plain. His face was calm. He looked at the 2 stalls the way he looked at the river, not as enemies, as flow. Han's shoulders tightened. "Uncle Shen," Han said stiffly, "this is business." Shen nodded once. "Yes," he said, "and you are trying to win a fight inside someone else's rules." Han scoffed. "There are no rules, only price." Shen stepped closer to the pot. He lifted the lid. Steam rose. He watched it for a moment like watching a ghost leave a body. Then he set the lid back down. "You think your enemy is the other stall," Shen said. Han's eyes flashed. "It is." Shen looked at the customers. They walked past Han's stall without tasting, without asking, without thinking. They walked with one thought, cheaper. Shen spoke calmly. "No," Shen said, "your enemy is the game." Wei felt something tightened in his chest. Han crossed his arms. "And what game is that?" Shen's eyes stayed flat. "The cheapest bowl." Han laughed once, a bitter sound. "So what? I must lower too." Shen didn't argue. He said it like giving it shore. "Lower it," Shen said. Wei blinked. Han blinked harder. Then Han's voice jumped. "What?" Shen repeated it. "Lower your plain bowl."
Han stared as if Shen had insulted him. Wei turned to Shen. "Uncle, if he lowers, we die." Shen's gaze didn't move. "Not if you stop selling bowls," Shen said, "and start selling choices." Han's jaw tightened. "Choices?" Shen held up one finger. "1 bowl," he said. "1 price." He held up a second finger. "1 bowl," he said. "1 different price." Wei frowned. Han's anger rose again. "You saying I should cheat my customers?" Shen looked at him. "I'm saying you should stop treating every customer like the same person." Han didn't like that, because it sounded like politics, because it sounded like manipulation. Shen continued anyway. "A hungry farmer comes for food," Shen said. "A bargain hunter comes for victory." He pointed across the lane. "That stall sells victory," Shen said, "not noodles." Wei looked again. People were laughing as they paid. They looked proud. Han's throat moved. So what do we do? Shen's voice stayed calm. You give them their victory, Shen said, and take their peace in exchange. Wei blinked. Han's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Shen turned to the menu board. He pointed to the simplest bowl. Plain noodles, broth, nothing else. Price this low, Shen said. Lower than him. Han's face twisted. That's suicide. Shen didn't flinch. That's a bait, Shen said. Wei's stomach tightened at the word. Han snapped. I'm not a fisherman. Shen looked at him like he was slow. You sell noodles, Shen said. Of course you are. Silence. Han's pride fought the idea, but his stall was empty. His pride wasn't feeding anyone. Han's voice dropped. How low? Shen said 7. Wei's eyes widened. That's your cost. Han's face tightened. You want me to sell for 0 profit? Shen nodded once. Yes. Han's fist clenched. That makes no sense. Shen leaned slightly forward. It makes sense if you stop calling the bowl your business. Han stared. Shen pointed to the jar of pickled vegetables by the stove, the scallion oil, the chili paste, the boiled eggs in a basket, the tea kettle simmering in the corner. These are your business, Shen said. Wei understood before Han did, because Wei's mind was always counting. The add-ons cost almost nothing, but people paid gladly, because it felt like comfort, because it felt like complete. Han's voice came sharp. So I lose money on the bowl to sell pickles? Shen nodded. And tea, he said. Han scoffed. No one will buy tea. Shen's eyes stayed flat. They will, he said, if you ask them correctly. Han stared. Shen spoke like carving the rule into stone. Every customer, Shen said, you ask one question. Wei waited. Han waited. Shen said, plain or complete. The words hung in the steam. Han frowned. That's it. Shen nodded. That's it. Han stared at the empty street in front of his stall. You think this will beat him? Shen shook his head. This will leave him, Shen said. Wei felt the line land. Han was still resisting. So Shen gave him the final cut. You cannot win a price war, Shen said, because there is always a man hungrier than you. Han's face tightened. Shen continued, but you can escape it, he said, by selling something that isn't price. Han looked at the pot, the eggs, the pickles, the tea. Wei watched Han's eyes shift from anger to calculation. Not greedy calculation, survival calculation. Han exhaled. Fine, Han said, like swallowing a stone. We do it. Shen nodded once. No praise, no comfort. Just good. They rewrote the board. Big letters. Plain bowl, 7 copper. Complete bowl, with egg and pickles and tea, 10 copper. Wei watched Han's hand tremble as he wrote. Not fear. Shame. Because a part of him still believed cheap meant weak. Shen said nothing. He only sat on the stone step beside the stall like it belonged there. The market woke up fully. And then it happened. A man stopped. He read the board. He blinked. Is this real? He asked. Han's throat tightened. Wei waited for Han to defend himself, to argue, to explain. Instead, Han said the line Shen gave him. Plain or complete? The man laughed. He bought a plain bowl. He slurped it. His eyes lifted. Because it was good. Not fancy, not impressive, just honest. He called to his friend. Come taste this. Another man came, then another, then a woman with a basket. A line formed, not from panic, from curiosity. Across the lane, the cheap stall watched their customers drift away. The rival merchant's smile thinned. He lifted his voice. Cheaper here. But now cheaper wasn't special, because Han was cheaper too. So the rival did what pride always does. He lowered again. Han didn't move. Wei whispered, He is at 6.
He is paying them to eat. Shen simply watched. The rival's eyes narrowed. He lowered again. Han didn't move. Now it wasn't competition. It was bleeding. A customer stepped up at Han's stall. He pointed at the complete bowl. "What's that?" Han swallowed and said the line again. "Plain or complete?" The man hesitated. He looked at the egg. He looked at the tea. He looked at the pickles. He looked at the line behind him. Then he said, "Complete." Han served it. He ate. His shoulders softened. He sighed like a man being forgiven. Han realized the math without needing a scroll. The egg and tea cost him 1 copper. He charged 3. The profit was hidden in comfort. His chest loosened like a knot cut.
By noon, Han's stall had sold more bowls than in any recent day. Across the lane, the rival merchant stood in front of his empty pot. His cheap price had become a curse because he had nothing else to sell. No complete, no ritual, no comfort, only cheaper. And cheaper can always be beaten by someone desperate. The rival tried to copy. He shouted tea free, but it sounded like begging. It sounded late. Han didn't watch him. Han watched his own hands. They were moving without panic now. Serving, asking, plain or complete. When the market finally slowed, Han sank onto the stone step. He looked at his empty pot, then at his full cash jar, then at Shen. Han's voice came out rough. "I sold more today than in a month." Shen didn't smile. He didn't say, "I told you." He only said the truth. "He tried to kill you with price," Shen said, "so you stopped being a price." Han stared. Wei's eyes drifted to the sign again, and he understood. The cheap noodles were the open door. The tea and eggs were the offering inside. Han's face tightened, then softened. "So I didn't win?" Shen looked at him. "You survived," Shen said, "and you stopped fighting a war that cannot end." Han exhaled. The shame slid off his shoulders a little. Wei asked softly, "And what happens now?" Shen's answer was immediate. "Now the other stall must decide," Shen said. "Become cheaper until he dies, or learn to sell something else." Across the lane, the rival merchant stared at Han's line like staring at an unfamiliar animal. He looked at his own empty stall. He looked down. Then he began boiling tea, not proudly, desperately. Han watched him. He almost laughed. Then he stopped, because he understood something deeper. Even an enemy can learn. Shen rose. He brushed dust from his sleeve. He started walking back toward the river. Wei followed. Han followed too, slow. At the end of the lane, Shen said one last line without turning around. "In war," he said, "you win by killing the enemy. In business," he said, "you win by leaving the battlefield."
What you just watched is not a noodle trick. It's a business strategy with a modern name, a loss leader. Han sold the plain bowl at cost, not to be generous, not to be brave, to change where the profit lives. Because in most businesses, the thing you advertise is not the thing that pays you. This is the modern mirror. Movie theaters, the ticket is the bait. Popcorn is the business. Printers sold cheap. Ink is the business. Game consoles subsidized. Games and subscriptions are the business. Phones sold at razor margins. Services, accessories, and ecosystems are the business. The rival thought he was winning because he owned the lowest number. But that's the weakest kind of advantage. Price is the easiest battlefield to enter and the fastest battlefield to bleed out on. There is always someone who can go cheaper. A bigger company, a desperate competitor, a company willing to lose money longer than you can survive. So Shen's move was not beat the rival. It was escape the game. Han stopped selling noodles and started selling a choice, plain or complete. That is differentiation, not by changing the whole product, but by adding value that feels real to a human being. Comfort, convenience, a small ritual, a feeling of I'm taken care of. And once Han offered that, the rival's cheap bowl became a trap, because cheap only works when cheap is the only thing. So here's the modern lesson in one line. If your only advantage is being cheaper, you don't have an advantage. You have a countdown. And if you're not sure where your profit is hiding, ask yourself, what do I use to pull people in, and what do they happily pay extra for once they're inside? That's your real business. The rest is just the open door.